Welcome to the Wealthy Woman's Podcast, a podcast for high-achieving women who are great at making money but struggle to build wealth. You'll learn how to take control of your money, increase your net worth, and make more. Ladies, it's time to create a life with more money and more freedom. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I hope you all are having a fabulous day so far. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think is very important for all of us to master, and that is how to overcome the urge to impulse spend. Listen, this is something that I struggled with. This is something that I think was the main reason why I struggle with money so much, because I used to tell myself that I love to spend, I love to shop, and all those things. And I still do, but now I figured out a way to do it in a way that doesn't cause me to not be able to build wealth. I have found a way to do it in such a way that I can still meet my financial goals and still enjoy life at the same time. And so if this is something that you want help with, today is the day to really listen in. So if you struggle with impulse spending and overspending and you're just like, I don't know, I have these urges and they're hard to deal with and I can't control myself and I have no discipline. This is your episode, so make sure you tune in and listen in. I'm going to give you some good things to take away so that you can start applying them to your life. Now, before we get started, I do want to take a moment to apologize because last week I talked about the masterclass that I'm doing this month called How to Build Wealth Without Going on a Strict Budget. And I just noticed a few days ago that the link to register was broken. So if you tried to register and you weren't able to, please accept my apologies and please go back and register. You have 3 dates to choose from. Saturday, April 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, April 21st at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Thursday, April 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These are going to be the exact same workshops, but I wanted to do them live 3 different times so that all of you have the opportunity to join me. I know some people are busy during different days and different times, so I thought I would give a morning option, an evening option, and an afternoon option, as well as a weeknight option. So join me live. I am going to be teaching you guys a concept that's kind of going to go along with what we talk about today. So I'm going to mention it a little later, but I'm going to teach it in depth during this masterclass. This is something that I've never shared before outside of sharing it with my actual clients. So this is going to be a tool that you'll be able to use to really help you with your urges to impulse spend. And if you apply it, it's kind of like a little brain hack. If you apply it, you will save thousands of dollars if you apply this, right? You'll also hear me talk about a special opportunity to join me inside of the Wealthy Woman's Academy with a bonus offer. So if you've been thinking about joining me inside of the Wealthy Woman's Academy, this is a great time to do it. So join the workshop. I'm only going to give this bonus opportunity to people who join me live for that workshop. I'm going to share with you live how to get a special bonus offer that can really help you save some money on the investment to join the Wealthy Woman's Academy. So join me live if you are interested in that. So here's what we're actually going to talk about during the masterclass. The title is How to Build Wealth Without Going on a Strict Budget. This is something that people really want to do. People want to know how to build wealth, and they also don't want to go on a strict budget. And I'm going to break it all down for you during the masterclass. And the subtitle is 3 Strategies to Get Your Money Right Without Losing the Freedom to Enjoy Life. So what I'm going to do is challenge all of your assumptions about what it takes to save, invest, and to pay off debt while living your best life. So many people think that they have to choose between one or the other. I either have to get my money together or I'm going to just live life without regards to my finances. And to me, this is the biggest misconception. And this is the reason why I think so many of you, including myself, why I ignored my money for so long because I thought I would have to live this boring, frugal life filled with deprivation and restriction if I wanted to pay off my debt, if I wanted to save, if I wanted to invest more. And so I just couldn't fathom that, right? I worked hard. I wanted to enjoy life. I wanted to do things that mattered to me. And I thought I couldn't, because that is the narrative that a lot of the personal finance experts give us. They tell us to stop doing all the things, stop going to restaurants, stop vacationing, stop buying fancy foods, eat rice and beans, right? Cut. And that message doesn't resonate with a lot of us women who really are doing well financially. We're making good money. You get to determine what that means to you, right? The amount is subjective, right? You get to determine what that means to you. And I always like to remind you all that I help women who in their minds know that they could be further along than where they are financially. And they know that their money management skills, their ability to save, their ability to pay off debt and stay out of debt, their ability to have money and to spend intentionally is holding them back. They don't have those skills yet. And so they know that they could be further along if they only have the skills and the mindset tools that they need to do it. And so that is who I help them to start building up habits to save and to invest and to pay off debt. That is what I do. So if you are that woman who's like, you know what, I know that I can be further along. I know that there's something I'm missing here. And you are constantly wondering, where did all my money go? And you feel out of control and you feel like you don't have any discipline. You are the person that should be at this workshop, and you are the person that would benefit tremendously from joining me inside of the Wealthy Woman's Academy. Okay. So what I want to do again is to challenge your assumptions about what it takes, because when we think we have to embrace this all or nothing approach, either I'm all about my finances and I'm not enjoying life at all, or I'm enjoying life to the fullest and I don't even care about my money, or I'm disregarding my financial situation and my financial future, then I think you're missing out on what's really possible for you. So if you decide oh, I can do both, I can build wealth and enjoy life at the same time, then you open yourself up to possibility and you open yourself up to learning how to do both. So that's why I need to challenge that assumption that you only could do one at a time. You could do both. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay. And then what we're going to do is look at how to set and achieve goals, financial goals, even if you haven't in the past. We're going to say goodbye to overspending and hello to guilt-free spending on things that actually matter to you. And we're going to discover the secret and the skills that I use to pay off over $200,000 worth of debt, create a multiple six-figure net worth, and build my dream home, right? I'm going to reveal those skills to you. And I'm going to tell you right now that I didn't do it by couponing or giving up my lifestyle. I was able to do both, build wealth and enjoy life at the same time. And so that is what we're going to look at during the masterclass. So make sure you click on the link in the show notes or go to www.jermainefoley.com/class. Again, that's www.jermainefoley.com/class, or of course, go to the show notes and sign up. I would love to have you join me for one of those classes, and make sure you put it on your calendar and set an alert so that you join live, so that you get the best out of it. We're also going to have a Q&A, so you can ask any questions that you have, and no one will be on camera. The only person that will be on camera is me. You'll be able to be in the comfort of your own home, off camera. You're not going to be on screen at all. This is going to be just such a great time. And so join me if you are interested. Okay, so now let's get into our topic for today, which is all about overcoming the urge to impulse spend. So here's the thing. Impulse spending is something, like I said earlier, that we all struggle with, including myself. And here's the definition. The definition of impulse spending is to spend money you weren't planning to spend for something that wasn't a necessity. So the definition again that I'm using for this episode is to spend money you weren't planning to spend for something that wasn't a necessity. So a necessity would be something like a car repair, a home repair, a kid expense that came out of nowhere, right? those are not necessarily impulse spends, even though you weren't planning technically to spend that money. An impulse spend is more like this. You're going into Target for toothpaste and maybe something else small, but you see all these cute things and you walk out the store spending $200 when you were really only planning to spend about $25. That is an impulse spend. Another example is you could be checking your email and you notice that your favorite retailer is offering a sale, and then you go on the website and you buy something just because they sent you a coupon. And that was a trigger for you, and you gave into the trigger and you impulsively spent that money. Or maybe you're on Instagram and you see an ad that pops up that shows you this cute dress or this cute jacket, and then you go to the site and you actually buy it. Those are more what we're talking about today. So let's look at some stats really quick here. So according to a few recent surveys, Americans spend between $150 and $314 a month on impulse purchases. And when you add that up, that's between $1,800 and $3,700 a year on things that really probably didn't matter that much to you. And the reason why we know this is because a lot of times we don't even know where that money went. We're constantly asking ourselves, where did all my money go? And then you look at your statements, could be your credit card statement or your bank account statement, and you're like, I spent $200 at Target. I spent $200 on Amazon. What did I even buy? Like, those are the questions I hear from my clients all the time, and questions that I used to ask myself all the time, so I can 100% relate to it. And I just want to offer you this to ponder. Like, what could you have intentionally done with that money instead? You could have gone on a nice vacation, especially if you're looking at that $3,700 range. You could have saved that money. You could have invested that money. That money could be earning you interest and making you more money. You could have a really nice handbag, or maybe have paid off some credit card debt, right? And that is something that I really want you to think about, because truthfully, you're going to hear me in a minute say this, it's nothing wrong with impulse spending per se if you do it within a planned space. So I have this concept called planned spontaneity spending, where you actually decide every month how much you're going to allow yourself to spend however you want to spontaneously. So you're not feeling like you're on a strict budget and that you have to be really rigid or restrictive with yourself. But even within that concept, or that with those guardrails, you still want to not indulge in a lot of impulse spending that is meaningless. You want to be able to spend your money in a meaningful way, even if you're doing it a little spontaneously. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the 5 strategies. There's literally 5 steps that you must take in order to overcome the urge to impulse spend. Number 1, plan your spending ahead of time. Now, I think you should choose a plan that works for you when it comes to your finances. But I do have 3 rules that I want to offer you. So number 1, make a plan monthly. I want you planning your spending ahead of time on a monthly basis. I teach my clients to choose a day during the last week of the month and sit down and intentionally decide what you want to do with your money for the following month. Number 2 is to not make it too restrictive. If you make it too restrictive, you're going to set yourself up for failure, and you're likely not going to be able to follow it. And even if you do follow it for the short term, a lot of times it ends up backfiring and you don't stick with it. And number 3, the third rule is to find, again, a process that works for you. Inside of the Wealthy Woman's Academy, I teach a system called the bucket system, where I teach my clients, this is what I do, and I'm going to offer it to you really quick. I can't go deep into it here, but I'll give you an overview. What you do is you have 3 bank accounts. One bank account is for your household necessities. The other one is for your spending, your discretionary spending, and the other one is for saving. And you divide your money into those 3 buckets at different bank accounts, different institutions. And I have come to the place where mine is automatic, and I reevaluate every few months or so to make sure the right amount of money is going into each account. But to start, I recommend that you do it manually. So every month you decide, okay, this amount is going into my spending account, this amount is going into my savings, and this amount is going into my necessities account. And you make that decision at the beginning of the month, and you can manually transfer the money or write yourself a check or deposit the money, however you want to do it. And if you do it manually the first few months, that really does give you the opportunity to test it and tweak it and understand that, you know what, I'm going in this expecting that it's not going to be perfect. And if I do it manually for the first 3 months, that'll give me an opportunity to tweak and change it as I need to. And once you get to the place where it's automated, you're still going to want to reevaluate. Just recently, my husband and I decided that more money needs to go into our necessities account because we have more expenses. So we're changing that up a little bit. So that's number 1, is to plan your spending ahead of time. Step number 2 is to follow your plan. Now, the goal is to spend what you planned and only what you planned. So here's an example. You're going to have a certain amount of money go into your necessities, your household account. So you're going to spend that money, and you're going to decide ahead of time how much you want to have saved. So you're going to save that money, but you're also going to plan how much you want to have in your spending account. This is where you get to be spontaneous with this money. However, as I said earlier, we're going to use a concept called planned spontaneity, where you decide how much money you're going to spend, but what you spend it on can be spontaneous. This is going to help you feel free, liberated, and you're like, okay, I know that this amount of money I can do whatever I want with for myself. Now, let's take the example of $500 in your spending account for the month. That's about $125 a week. If you just impulsively spend that money, let's say you put $500 in at the beginning of the month and you won't deposit any more money for the month because $500 is going in and that's what you have. Imagine if you just impulsively spent that money, gave into all the urges to spend that money at the very beginning of the month, and you have nothing left. So you do still want to intentionally and thoughtfully use that money. Even though you can do whatever you want with it, you don't want to just spend it impulsively. The other thing you don't want to do is to dip into your savings because you overspent that money, or to put things on your credit card because you overspent the money you set aside for yourself. The goal is to spend only what you plan to spend, and this, my friend, will help you build trust with yourself, and it will help you to reach your financial goals. And remember, we're not being too restrictive. That was rule number 2. You're not being too restrictive with yourself, so make sure the money you allot for your spending is not pennies, right? You want to be thoughtful about it, but you also want to be making sure that you're saving and that your household is taken care of as well. And if you need help building trust with yourself, I did a whole episode on building trust with yourself when it comes to your finances and trusting yourself with money. That was episode number 53. Now, here's the thing. Even though the goal is for you to spend what you plan to spend, that's easier said than done. Why? Because we are a human with a human brain with 2 parts that are at odds with each other. The first part, you heard me talk about these 2 parts of your brain plenty of times, and the first part is your prefrontal cortex. That's your higher brain. That is the brain that you are using when you sit down to make your plan. You're thinking about what's best for you. You're thinking about long-term and short-term, not just the short-term. You're not so much concerned at that point with instant gratification. You really do want to take care of yourself today, and you want to take care of yourself in the future. So you're thinking about both, not just the current you, but also that future you. So that's who you're using. That's the part of your brain that you're using when you sit down to plan. That's why step number one is so important. You're creating a guide for yourself. Now, the other part of your brain, your primitive brain, doesn't care about the long term. It wants instant gratification and it wants immediate rewards. It doesn't care about your plan or anything else. I like to use the analogy of a toddler and a parent at the grocery store. So let's pretend that you're the parent and you have a list. You sat down and you looked in your cupboard, you planned your meals for the week, and you have a nice grocery list that includes everything that you really need to buy. But you're taking your toddler with you. Maybe you didn't have a babysitter. Listen, when I had toddlers, I tried my best not to take them to the grocery store, but sometimes they had to go. And I remember these days, so this is why I can give you this analogy. So I or you will go in with your list. You have everything you need, and your toddler is going to see all the sugary things and want all of the sugary things. But you as the parent, you know that that's not what's best for them. And you have this list that shows you everything you need. And maybe there's a couple treats that you intentionally put on there for the toddler that are healthy and that are good for them, but they want what they want. They want all the sugary cereals. They want all the fruit snacks. They want all the candy. That's kind of how you can think about what I'm going to share with you and how you can use this analogy to help you to follow your plan. So let's keep this analogy handy, and I'm going to use it for step number 3. But before we get to step number 3, remember that even though you have this plan, you have this brain, again, that wants what it wants. But the beautiful thing is you also followed step number 1, which means you have a plan for your money. Okay, you have a plan for your money, but you have to understand and expect and anticipate that just because I have this plan doesn't mean that my brain isn't going to want me to impulse spend. But I have this plan and this is my guidepost, and you kind of make that pact with yourself that I'm making this plan because my goal is to follow through with the plan. Okay. Now, step number 3 is to allow the urge to impulse spend without giving into it. Allow the urge to impulse spend without giving into it. Because here's the thing, there are 3 things you can do with an urge. And let's use the toddler analogy to really help us understand this. So number 1, you can give into it. So let's pretend you're at the grocery store and you have a toddler and they see the sugary foods and cereals and you just say, sure, you can have it. You just give into it. That's what happens when you have an impulse to spend and you just mindlessly give into it. You see the ad, or you're at Target and you see the pretty things, or you get the email and you just, oh, there's an urge there. I must answer it, right? And when we give into the urges, all we do is make them stronger and stronger, and they come more and more often. Just like when you give into the toddler, they become conditioned to know, oh, all I have to do is tell mommy I want something and she just buys it, even though it's not good for me, right? And it just perpetuates a cycle. And when it comes to your finances, this cycle keeps you from building wealth, and it keeps you from being able to really enjoy life to the fullest because you're using all your money on things that really don't matter to you versus using your money in a way that's intentional and that makes your life better and that helps you to engage in the things that truly, truly matter to you. The second thing we can do with an urge is we can resist it. And let's go back to the grocery store example. So you have the toddler, they ask for the thing and you say no, and then they start throwing a tantrum, and then you argue with them. You tell them they shouldn't want it. You tell them no, and you engage with it, and you're like trying to resist it because you're just trying to overpower it. Well, what happens? The toddler screams and yells, and it just becomes this big fight, right? And eventually they may stop, but it doesn't really teach them a lesson, right? It doesn't really help them to understand that just because you want something doesn't mean mommy's going to give into it, but it almost puts a struggle in between you and the toddler. Like, where's this power struggle? When truthfully, you're the adult and you really don't have to struggle with the toddler. And I'm going to show you what you could do instead in a minute. And how this shows up with your money is that you put yourself on a strict budget and you try to use willpower and you're like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And it may work for a while, but eventually you're just going to get tired of the struggle. You're using willpower. Willpower is something that is very limited. And so eventually you give up, kind of with the toddler. Like, eventually you just stop fighting with the toddler and you give in to what they want, right? They just wear you down and you give in. And again, you don't really teach them that it's okay to want things. And every time you want something doesn't mean mommy's going to give it to you. Now, the third thing you can do with an urge is just to allow it to be there without giving into it. Now, let's go back to the grocery store example. The toddler wants the cereal, the Lucky Charms, the fruit snacks, the candy, and you say, no, we're not going to buy that today. And they get upset and they start throwing a tantrum, and you just say, you know what? I know you want this. I understand. You have compassion for them. You talk to them in a low voice. You don't engage. You don't resist. You don't fight with them. You also don't give in to them. And eventually they will calm down and relax. Eventually. It might take a while, but that's okay. But you as the parent know that you don't need to argue with them. You don't need to fight with them. You don't need to debate with them. You just say, no, I understand you're upset. I understand why, but today we're not buying that. Now, when it comes to your money, you can do the same thing. You can allow the urge to be there without giving into it. Now, during the workshop that I'm hosting later this month, I will be taking you through an exercise that will help you do this in a fun way that's kind of a brain hack. And if you apply this, you will save thousands of dollars, and you will, my friend, you will build wealth if you use this. So make sure you register for the masterclass, because I'm going to share this with you during the beginning of class, and it's going to be a game changer. Go to jermainefoley.com/class or go to the show notes to reserve your spot. Now, after you allow the urge without giving into it, urges do not last long, just like tantrums from toddlers do not last long. You want to use step number 4. Step number 4 is to allow yourself to be proud that you allowed that urge. Recognize how much you didn't spend. Recognize how much money you kept instead of just spending mindlessly. This is so important that you do this, because you want to give yourself a reward for following your plan, for not giving into random impulse purchases, just like you would do with a toddler. Right? After they calm down, you will want to say, I'm so proud of you for wanting what you wanted and you calmed yourself down. That is the human experience. You might not use these words with your toddler, but it's true. Like, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to want something and not get it and be upset about it, especially at that age. And your primitive brain truly is like a toddler. It doesn't understand all of it. So to say, I'm proud of you, you did the right thing, here's a reward, let's look at how much money we saved. And again, during the masterclass, I'm going to give you another tool you can use that really will help you with that reward system, which is what your primitive brain wants anyway. It really doesn't want the stuff, right? It doesn't want the thing. It wants the reward of having the thing. It wants the dopamine hit that it gets from buying the thing. That's why you can buy things and forget you even have them. That's why your closet can have tons and tons of things and you just forget about them, because it wasn't about the thing. It was about the reward. It was about the dopamine hit. It was about the accumulation. And so this hack that I'm going to share with you during the masterclass is really going to help you with giving yourself that reward that you really want anyway. And then number 5 is to repeat the process. And when you do this, you're reprogramming your brain. You're building new neural pathways, because right now your brain is probably wired to have a neural pathway where you feel an urge to spend and you give into the urge. feel an urge, give into the urge. And now what we want to do is create a new neural pathway where you feel an urge and you allow the urge without giving into it. So that's going to take practice, because think about it. You've practiced and practiced and practiced giving into the urges for years. And now this is a new thing you're trying to do, a new habit you're trying to form. You're deconditioning yourself. So you want to repeat it over and over again. Okay. And the beautiful thing is, if you use the bucket system, you'll have plenty of money available at your disposal, but you also get to use that money intentionally. It's like really cool. It's like I have the money and I'm choosing not to spend it. That is the best place to be in versus not having the money and wanting it and feeling like deprived because you don't have the money, and then also feeling deprived because you're not buying the thing. So I want you to get to the place where you have plenty of money. You could buy whatever you want, but you choose not to because you have other goals, because you're being intentional, because you want to do other things with your money that truly, truly matter to you, like vacationing and buying nicer things. So just to give you an example, I do this all the time. And so that means my spending account piles up. Like I have money, lots of money in there. And one time I looked and I'm like, ooh, I have enough to buy this cute wallet on a chain by Chanel. So I bought a wallet on the chain by Chanel. It's so cute. I wear it all the time. I love it. And this was out of my planned spontaneity spending amount. So I wasn't planning to buy it, but I looked and I'm like, I have quite a bit of money here. And every month I'm replenishing it. Let me go buy this thing that I've been wanting for a while. And I did. So you can do the same thing. You can go on a vacation with that money. You can do whatever you want. You can be spontaneous with it, but it's within the guardrails of what is available to you in the account. And if you're always impulse spending it on things that don't matter, you will never have the opportunity to do something like that. So if I gave in to all the random impulse spending urges that I have throughout the months, I would have never, ever been able to get to the place where I had that much money there where I could buy that nice handbag for myself. And so this is what I want for you. I want you to have the same skills and to be able to do the same things. For you, it may not be a wallet on a chain. It might be something else, right? It may be something else, but I'm sure we all have our thing. And so I hope this episode was helpful. And don't forget to sign up for the masterclass that's happening later this month. Pick your date and time, and the registration link is working. And I can't wait to see you there. You can go to the show notes or go to jermainefoley.com/class to reserve your spot. All right. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hey, before you go, if you're ready to create a life with more money and more freedom, then you're invited to join the Wealthy Woman's Academy, my signature coaching program where you'll learn how to take control of your money and build wealth without sacrificing your lifestyle. To get started, head on over to jermainefoley.com/WWA. That's Jermaine with a G. See you over there. Bye-bye.